Okay, so if you tuned in to qualifying from LUSAIL expecting, well, the usual Max Verstappen monologue, right?
Oh, yeah.
You were in for a shock.
Yeah.
Because what we got was, I mean, it was high drama, total chaos, and this brilliant flash of papaya orange that just reset the entire conversation. Welcome back to the deep dive.
Absolutely. What we just saw, that wasn't your standard pole position battle. Not at all. It was more like a fundamental shift in momentum. McLaren delivered a shockwave, really.
A shockwave that changes everything.
Yeah, it changes how we see the front of the grid for this race, and maybe, just maybe, for the rest of the season.
That is exactly what we are here to unpack.
Yeah.
Today, we are diving deep into the Qatar Grand Prix qualifying. We're going to look at the data, the quotes, basically get to the bottom of it.
And our mission here is to understand the key technical stuff, right? Like the dominant pace of that McLaren MCL60, the internal struggles for the champion, and of course, the chaos.
The chaos that just defined the rest of the grid, especially for one, let's say, legendary Scuderia.
The headline, though, the one you need to remember, is a massive one. Oscar Piastri takes pole position. A stunning 1.19.387.
Followed by Lando Norris in P2.
And Max Verstappen, he's all the way down in P3, and he is definitely looking over his shoulder.
Let's just jump straight into Q3, because this is where the speed of that McLaren became. I mean, it became a genuine technical story. Oscar Piastri wasn't just quick, he was clinical.
He really was.
He set a time a full 10th faster than his teammate Norris. Now look, everyone expected the McLarens to be fast here. The track suits them. But this level of dominance was shocking.
It was more than surprising. It was a profound technical win in terms of car setup. And Piastri's comments after the session, incredibly revealing. They suggest so much confidence.
What did he say?
He said, and I'm quoting here, "We've left the car practically the same. If it's broken, don't fix it." Just think about that.
Wow.
They barely touched the car between practice and qualifying because it was already in that perfect sweet spot. But the real insight, the thing that blew my mind, was the tire choice.
Okay, tell me about the tires, because on a hot track like this, that's everything.
Exactly. They were actually doubting if a set of used softs would have enough grip. And then Piastri goes and does a 1.1.33 on them.
On used tires.
On used tires. This suggests two crucial things. First, that MCL60 is incredible at managing heat and degradation. The tire just stays in its happy place for longer.
And
Second, the fundamental mechanical grip of the car is so high that even a slightly worn tire still gives you peak performance for the race itself. That is strategic gold.
Right. And just a quick note for everyone listening, this segment is part of our news coverage of recent F1 events.
So while Piastri's session was flawless, his teammate, Lando Norris, well, he had a bit more of a fraught time.
A bit more dramatic, yeah. Norris, who, let's be honest, was probably the favorite for pole coming into Q3.
He was, yeah.
He ended his run by aborting his final lap, a pretty big error, and he just couldn't hook it up when the pressure was highest. That basically handed the pole to Piastri right there.
And this brings us to the elephant in the room.
Max Verstappen.
Max Verstappen. Starting P3 is hardly a disaster, of course, but the margin is just jaw-dropping. He was 4/10 off the McLarens in Q3.
4/10. In Formula One, that's an eternity.
It really is.
But hang on, okay. Verstappen is the undisputed master of race strategy, tire preservation, all of it. Doesn't that 4/10 gap in qualifying kind of become irrelevant over a 57-lap race?
Yeah.
Especially with a mandatory two-stop.
That is a sharp question, and the answer is, in the data from the high-speed sections, the Red Bull is struggling in the fast-sweeping corners here.
Which is unusual for them.
Highly unusual. It seems like the balance they've found for Qatar is just too sensitive. It's twitchy under braking and turn-in, especially with the high temps.
And McLaren.
McLaren, on the other hand, they've found this beautiful balance between aero efficiency and mechanical grip. Verstappen's car just isn't settling down fast enough to carry the speed he needs through the S's.
So even if he saves the tires later, he's got to make up that time immediately on Sunday.
Immediately? It could put him out of the DRS window on the very first lap. That's a huge psychological and strategic advantage for McLaren. It's the difference between controlling the race and having to hunt aggressively from P3.
It's clear the MCL60 is just operating in a window the Red Bull can't seem to match here.
Exactly.
All right, let's shift gears from the dominance up front to the absolute chaos that defined the rest of the session. We had a red flag.
We did.
And for one of the most unusual reasons I think I've ever seen.
It was bizarre, and it caused major disruption right when everyone was gearing up for their final runs. The red flag was for Carlos Sainz coming out of the pit lane.
With that piece of tape on his wheel, right?
Yeah, piece of tape or some kind of fiber attached to his right rear, which then flew off and landed right on the racing line.
What even was that stuff? You see tape in practice sometimes, but this was different.
It's often this highly specialized aerodynamic sealing tape. Teams use it to manage the airflow under the car, maximize the ground effect.
So if it comes off, it's not just debris.
Not at all. It changes the car's performance, and it's a massive safety risk. If another car hits a piece of that hard carbon-backed tape at speed, it could be catastrophic tire damage. That's why Sainz was immediately investigated for an unsafe condition.
Unbelievable. Speaking of intensity, we have to talk about Ferrari. What a catastrophic weekend for them so far.
Catastrophic is the only word for it. Let's just start with Charles Leclerc in Q3. The pressure was on, and it really, really showed.
That double spin.
A spectacular double spin, a trumpo, as they say.
Right.
It meant he didn't even set a time on his first run. He eventually scraped together a lap for P10, but that just shows you how on the edge that SF23 is here.
It's just, what a weekend for them.
Yeah, and if you're watching this on YouTube, by the way, welcome to DRS Zone. Definitely don't forget to subscribe for more F1 content like this.
Because he keeps getting crazier. And Ferrari's problems, they didn't just start in Q3, did they?
No. The midfield was so tight, we had some huge shocks even earlier. Q1, Lewis Hamilton, knocked out in Q1, starting P18. That is just, it's an incredibly rare event for a driver like him. It just shows how fast the track was evolving. Yuki Tsunoda also out in Q1, starting P16.
When you have drivers of that caliber getting knocked out so early, you know it's a volatile session.
Absolutely. It just punishes any tiny miscalculation.
Okay, so let's move from the chaos and really appreciate just how tight the midfield was, especially in Q2.
The margins were microscopic. They were beyond razor thin. If you look at the Q2 timesheets, the gap between P6, Fernando Alonso, and P11, Nico Hülkenberg,
How much was it?
barely over 1/10 of a second. That tiny little gap is the difference between fighting for points and going home early.
That's modern F1 right there. Glory and failures separated by millimeters. So who are the casualties of that intensity?
Well, you had Hülkenberg, Liam Lawson, Oliver Bierman, and Alex Albon all knocked out in that Q2 gauntlet. Every single one of them was pushing the limits.
And even Lando Norris, who ended up P2, was flirting with disaster.
He absolutely was. He had a crucial Q2 lap deleted for track limits. That forced him into this incredibly high-pressure final run just to get through to Q3. He was one tiny mistake away from being out of the top 10 completely.
What a white-knuckle moment. But while everyone's focused on McLaren and Red Bull, there was a quiet victory happening.
There was a massive strategic play from Mercedes in the constructors' battle.
They were just consistently solid, weren't they? And that stability is so valuable when your rivals are struggling.
It is the definition of capitalizing on an opportunity. George Russell qualified P4, and here's the stat that just sums up Q3. He beat Max Verstappen by a single centisecond.
0.01 seconds.
0.01s. Phenomenal execution. And then Kimi Antonelli secured a fantastic P5. That P4, P5 result. It is the absolute best case scenario for Mercedes.
Let's explain that. Why is P4, P5 so critical for the big picture?
Because the Constructors' Championship is where the prize money is. It's the prestige. And Mercedes is fighting tooth and nail to keep P2, with Ferrari starting P7 and P10.
Right, one of their cars is completely out of the fight at the front.
Exactly. So Mercedes is positioned for a massive point swing. If they hold P4 and P5, that's 22 points. Ferrari, if they stay P7 and P10, only gets 7.
That's a 15-point difference. In one race, that is huge for the standings.
It's massive breathing room. It just shows they managed the pressure perfectly while their rivals, frankly, imploded. Russell's 100th of a second over Verstappen wasn't just about P4, it was about securing millions for the team.
What a result. And what about the other drivers? The Spanish drivers?
Well, they found some stability. Carlos Sainz ended up P7, and Fernando Alonso right behind him in P8, just ahead of Pierre Gasly in P9.
A solid, if maybe a bit cautious result for the veterans, puts them right in the points fight.
Oh, absolutely. Given how volatile it was, getting both of them into the top 8 ahead of that midfield battle is a highly professional job. They're in a great spot to benefit from any chaos in the race.
So let's bring this all together. An absolutely insane grid. You've got Piastri, Norris, and Verstappen in the top 3. The whole question now shifts, doesn't it? From raw speed to race pace longevity.
And tire management.
Can those papaya cars maintain this incredible speed over a full Grand Prix?
That is the ultimate test. And the heat, plus that mandated two-stop strategy, makes it an endurance challenge. Piastri said it himself. It's not about being the fastest, it's about preserving the rubber across multiple stints.
And meanwhile, you have Verstappen in P3, the king of race strategy. He's just going to be hunting them down from the first corner.
He will. The winner on Sunday won't necessarily be the quickest car, it'll be the one that executes the strategy perfectly. McLaren has the pole, but Max has the track record.
And this is where we're going to leave it with you, the listener. Given this volatile qualifying, that 4/10 gap in this guaranteed two-stop race, do you think Oscar Piastri can convert this shock pole into his first F1 victory?
Or will Max Verstappen just manage the tires better, use his experience, and claw back the win?
That is the battle that's going to define Sunday. It's performance versus preservation. An incredible race awaits.
It's going to be brilliant.
Thank you for joining the Deep Dive. Make sure you don't miss any of our race analysis. Join the conversation and follow DRS Zone on all platforms. Subscribe right now in your favorite podcast app. Hit that notification bell on YouTube.
And follow us for quick analysis on TikTok and Instagram.
Tell a friend who loves F1, and we will see you after the checkered flag.